Hello, my name is Chris, and I'm just here to begin streaming and giving an introduction to Wargame Simulator, as I've made a lot of progress on it over the past couple months, and I wanted to start producing material for beta testers or other users so they can feel a little bit more comfortable engaging with the system. It's a little bit complex, sometimes it isn't most user-friendly, so I thought it would be really nice to start producing some informative videos out there. I thought an easy, straightforward way for me to do so was to stream my progress a few times each week. So today, I just kind of have the website up here. You can get to it at wargamesimulator.com. And I'm going to go over some of the supplies that are necessary in order to play within the system. So I have the supplies linked up here. We're just going to take a look. The first is a camera mount or a stand. In order to figure out where all the models and everything is on the tabletop, you need to be able to take a clear picture of it from above. This helps out both with measurement purposes and identification purposes. So you need a mount to get it high enough so that you can see that. So that is this first camera mount / stand. So here's my recommended modular mount. I have it right here. It's on Amazon linked. And I actually own two of these because the clips, these segmented parts, can clip to each other, and it requires two to get high enough so that your phone camera lens can see the entire tabletop. In fact, you can actually see mine in the background on my tabletop right there. You can see it's just kind of sitting up over the battlefield. And it's got on it the second important piece. That little black thing at the very top is a magnetic phone holder. So, that magnetic phone holder, if I were to go back here, you can see it's a magnetic phone holder. Click on it. It's just some system to hold your phone. Well, this is a magnetic phone case. I have one on mine right here. And I have a magnetic point on the arm. And so it just makes it really easy for me to take my phone and put it up top. And that's how you kind of get your phone up and above battlefield. And we'll show how to connect it to a battle here in a little bit. There's other ways that you can do the overhead mount too. I've built both of these in my trials. The first is some sort of cheap and easy mount system. It looks kind of like this. So this guy explains how he built it. It's just something that kind of use, there it is, kind of use some piping to build a stand over the battlefield, and it just kind of sit on top of the table. The one I suggested latches to the table, which I think is nice. It doesn't wobble, and it also doesn't get in your way when you're moving models around. But these type, if you want to build your own, work just fine. I think there's another one that I linked down here that I've also built. This one is one that sits on the ground. We still use piping and kind of some connector pieces, but it just sits on the ground and comes up over the table. This makes it so it's not sitting on the table. It makes it less wobbly, and you're kind of using sturdier materials. When it's sitting on the table, if you don't have a strong base, it gets really wobbly due to how high it's standing. So I used this one for a little bit before I found my clamp-on arm method that I have behind me. So that's just another kind of way to get the camera up high enough so that it can take pictures. Okay, the next thing you need are objective markers. Objective markers, they're identified very easily and very accurately by the system, and they help determine distances as well as provide much needed kind of calibration efforts on the side of the system. So there's two types of objectives that you can get. The first that I use, I have some 3D printed ones. They kind of look like this. So I'm sure if I go to the purchase professional folks and see, oh, sorry. So I can provide a vendor who kind of sells these, or you can figure out how to print off a objective that looks like that. There's blue ones, there's black ones, there's white ones. They're all interchangeable. And the next one I have are these color or black and white objectives. Seems like my download currently isn't working, but they look like this. So this is a colored one, and you just print them off on a color printer, or if you download the black and white ones, a black and white printer, and that allows you to. I taped mine to a wooden poker chip, just so it's a little bit heavier than a piece of paper, but it'll recognize those as well. The next thing you need are transponders. I call them transponders. They're just tokens that look a very specific way that the machine learning kind of algorithm can easily and quickly detect, and they just help mark units to make sure the accuracy of detecting models and units is a little bit higher. They really help out with the system crossing over games and identifying models it's never seen before. So there's two ways to do these. The first is these kind of professional tokens from this Etsy vendor. These are wood. You can see I have some right here. Just a kind of like the wood cross one. These are Dungeons and Dragons tokens that I'm utilizing for this concept. So I have the wood ones, but you can also, if you would like, I'm trying to keep costs as low as possible, which is reasonable. I'd like people to basically play it for free if they could, but you do have to have a cell phone and a arm mount. You can also print off the tokens. Here you can see the printable Dungeons and Dragons set right here, and if you print them off and cut them out, that will work as well. So the next thing you need are devices. You can see you need two devices. One is the camera that you saw me place above the battlefield before, and the next is a screen like you see that I'm sharing right now. Some way to see the website so that you can interact with it and get interactions from the AI if you're playing against an AI opponent. So, and then the final thing you need is a tabletop. So you can see mine behind me, it's just a flat surface. I actually have 3 miniature tables and a trench coat. And I just kind of hold my playing mat. Now you want it to be a flat surface. One important part, it's optional, but it really helps detection and making sure everything stays accurate, is a neoprene mat. That's because these don't cause reflections or glare from the lights around the room that may hide units or transponders or objectives inside of the glare. So it's really helpful to have a neoprene mat that reduces the glare. And then consistent lighting. We're operating off pictures and images. Taking a picture of the battlefield is a relatively tenuous connection. It really helps to have good lighting to increase accuracy. So those are kind of the supplies you need in order to run the system. Now, I'm going to log in. I'm going to show you how to start a game. So I'm going to log in. So here you land on a dashboard page. This is currently, and I hope to replace this soon, but this is currently just filler information. Obviously my name is not Commander Sarah Chen, and this kind of latest achievement, but it's kind of place filler information for things that I would want to exist on this page. Suggestions for what I can put here are greatly encouraged. There's another filler page, the achievements, and then there's a setting page where you kind of change some of like your account security and things like that. You can delete your account if you would like to. But the most important one is the games. And this is kind of a game menu, how you start a game. So I'm going to create a new game. I'm going to give it a game, so we're going to call it YouTube Starter Tutorial. It has a description. My YouTube Starter Tutorial. And then I'm going to create a game. Now this sometimes takes a second to start up. So here you have a game chat menu. This is generally a way for the AI to communicate with you in terms of what moves it would like to do, where it would like you to place its models. Obviously, all it can do is think. It can't actually move physical objects. So it'll generally try to communicate to you the movements and actions that it is taking right here. This menu will also serve lots of purposes in the future, but for right now, that's what it does. And now in your game, there's lots of information here. Here's the game name and description. We have then a couple settings. that you may want to turn on. Right now, lots of these don't do anything, but they're there because I just need to finish the hookups. The first one is multiple devices. This simply stands for if you're going to have multiple people playing in the game. If we need to make room in the game for a second phone, like let's say you're playing as a human opponent and you both have a phone and want to navigate the game that way, this just tells the game that that's possible. The next is a digital map. The digital map is if you want to play a game without using a camera. You'll understand that a little bit in the future, but it's mostly used for debugging. It provides a really basic interface for moving transponder images around, but you'll see it. It frequently comes up, but this is basically how you tell it if you want to use it a camera. If you want to use a camera, your digital map is no. And that's pretty standard. Then use dice cam. Obviously a big part of Wargame is rolling realistic dice. Everyone likes rolling dice, it's fun. We want to roll big batches of dice. And since so much of this is digital, you can use a random number generator instead of real dice. But the use dice cam allows you to roll real dice for lots of moments in the game. And so if you want to use real dice, you select this as yes, as opposed to, and then it'll prompt you as to when you should roll dice and how many at certain times. The announcer is just something kind of fun. It would be kind of if you had an announcer, think Dungeon Crawler Carl announcer, watching the battle, and you'd want it to communicate through chat and make announcements about the game. More fun than any tactical purpose. The next one, you have this kind of standard. This doesn't do anything as a game type, but it could be a tournament game that might have greater restrictions on what people are allowed to do. It can be a custom game or a narrative game. These are just possible game types that I plan on implementing soon. And then the number of points in the game. Okay. After you select these that you want, you can save your game settings, and it saves those settings. And we can move on to kind of the next stage of setup. The next stage of setup is a scenario. You kind of see there's some different ways to score points. This is how you win the game. A scenario is how you win the game, how you score points, and how that gets totaled by the end. So there's kind of a mission configuration. This is how the primary objectives operate. So like at the end of each command phase, score 5 victory points for each objective marker you control. And then there's the secondary objectives. These are just selectable. So like for player 1 wants assassination and bring it down. Player 2 might want engage on all fronts and deploy teleport Homer. And then, I did accidentally pass over mission rules is actually the bottom. You can get your mission rules here if you'd like and add more mission rules to the system. Then you can save your scenario settings once you have your scenario all set up. The next tab in setup is the Army tab. Armies, in order to get an army, you have to export an army from New Recruit. It is a army build that's built on top of the BattleScribe files. I actually don't save any information on my system, and all the information for a game, in terms of units, points, stat lines, and all of that, come from the file you upload. So I'm going to, I don't know why I have two small armies in here. A little bug. There's lots of little bugs, and that's why we're bringing on playtesters. So here I have a couple preloaded in armies, but I'm just going to choose an army file. No. So I'm going to choose an army file. So I'm going to choose this Tyranid army. It's just 200 points. It's got 2 units in it. It's a good little test army that I use all the time. So I upload it, and you can see it kind of parses that list, and we can see a list in army right here. You can see it starts to give a little bit of warnings that your setup in this section is complete. You got this nice little green outline. We have a warning here, and that's that 2 units are missing transponders. So the transponders are these things, and you basically, for each unit, you want to assign them a transponder. So I already have some units on the tabletop behind me. I have my Broodlord, which has a archer. Just kind of looks like the archer transponder. Alright, and then you can describe the unit's personality if you like. This kind of helps dictate how the AI will play this unit. You can give it good advice, bad advice, fun advice, and it will try to lean towards making selections that follow the rules that are stated in this unit personality. So I'm going to save my unit changes because I updated that. Okay. And now going on to the second unit, which was a unit of Termagants. They have, that look behind me, this one sitting next to them. And so that will set up that unit. I'm just telling the system essentially that when you see this transponder, the units most likely that are closest are from the Termagants unit. These have other functions, especially when units are not visible by the camera, such as they're inside of a building. You can place the transponder on top of the building and it will know that the units are inside that piece of terrain. But mostly it's used to help accuracy. For the second army, I do the same thing. I can select an army I've used before, like this one, or I can, so I'm just selecting, this is one that I've used before. It's a 250 point or much less, but Grey Knight's army. I still have to assign transponders. I have them on the tabletop behind me. He has the elemental. And so I'm going to save that unit. And then I'm going to do the strike squad, which has this. Alright, so I'm going to save those unit changes, and then I can specify army level information as well. This section unfolds, and you can specify the personality type of this army if played by an AI, and its controller. So I'm just going to do standard, but I'm going to make this controller an AI opponent. Okay. Then, I still have to modify this army. I want to make it as AI as well. So this game would be a computer playing as a computer. I'm going to save those army changes and keep going through the tabs. The next tab is the camera tab. This tab just gives you an easy way, it gives you a QR code that you can scan that lets you connect your phone camera to the game. I'm going to grab my camera from up above, scan it, and put it back. Here you can see what kind of it looks like. It just shows you a little bit of like what your camera's seeing. And I'm just going to throw this back up above. Okay. So that's all it takes to hook up the camera. It shows that there's a phone connected now. I can disconnect that phone if I like, but I'm not going to. Now I'm going to go to the map. The map is interesting. In that it allows you to kind of set up what the map looks like. Lots of features, the AI doesn't know what it is until you tell it. For example, where the deployment zones are. And this allows you to kind of switch the objective layouts. So I'm going to choose Dawn of War kind of objective layouts. You have 1 in the middle, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this point is extremely important. In the map information, it always tells you the distance between objective 1 and objective 2. And in this case, it is 20 inches. And you can see objective 1 is here. Objective 2 is on the same midline. So in Warhammer 40k, this would be 22 inches in, I believe. And then 3 is on this side, 4 and 5. 3, 4, and 5 don't matter as much where they go, but 1 and 2 need to be 20 inches apart. Because that's what the scenario calls for. Then you can select the terrain layout. Right now I have just this forest battlefield and urban battlefield. They're pretty basic layouts, and then you can select a deployment layout. Let's say the Dawn of War layout or the Hammer and Anvil. We'll just choose Dawn of War. It's a really simple, basic game how we see it right here. You'll notice we have this line right here above this digital map I'm using. And this line shows that we have a camera connected and we're allowed to take a photo. If I click the photo button, it will trigger a photo to be analyzed. And after that, we'll kind of go through what was analyzed. And I did not save things before I analyzed the photo, so see, it kind of got all wonky. Well, I'll fix that right now. Well, Urban Battlefield, Dawn of War, deployment. What is that? You do have to save your map settings. This just sends the map settings that you've determined off to the server so that we know what they are. Okay. There we go, we've saved them. Now if I take a photo, it should, now this is where bugs start to creep in. Anytime you connect the camera, there's always a few bugs. Yeah, there's a bug happening. We'll just refresh the page. Refreshing the page solves a lot of problems. Go to the map. I'm going to see if I do have a camera connected. I'm going to take a photo. Okay, so it says it's kind of analyzing the photo right now. That's how long it takes to analyze the image. Now we can see that I have a little bit of stuff messed up in terms of where these are at and where they should be. But you can see that we have a picture. When I put up the camera above the tabletop, I obviously did put it on centered or straight. So you can see that everything's kind of wonky a little bit, but you can see that we have some objectives detected. It missed 3 a little bit, I don't know why, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It detected where all those objectives were. Oops, I hit the photo button again. So here you can see it kind of detected units where it detected them as well. You can click on a unit to kind of see its range and line of sight and stuff like that out of the units it detected. You can also kind of disable certain features. Now, because my phone isn't centered up above, part of the map is actually off the image. That's something you should be aware of. And my 1 and 2 aren't perfectly 20 inches apart. I didn't take the time to measure them, so things kind of get a little wonky if you don't set up correctly. But you can kind of toggle objectives, terrain, units, the deployment zones. You also have the ability to kind of make some settings. If you only want the deployment zones really light on the image, you can do that. You can also toggle the bounding boxes, things that it found. This is helpful to see. You see it found a dice bot. It found the dice tray right here. It found a bunch of models, a bunch of objectives. This is something that really messes up the game a little bit. You can see it did not detect this little transponder right there, and that means it's not doing a good job determining where this unit is. You can tell it still tried when we turn off the bounding boxes. You can tell it still tried, but it didn't quite get the Broodlord and its location. But it did get the rest and their locations. Finally, at this stage, you can, if you'd like, you can kind of turn on some live stream with the camera, which allows you to kind of use this image to deploy your terrain, set up your terrain and your deployment zones and things like that if you'd like. I'm going to stop that for now. The last thing, if you do have dice enabled, you can check how the dice is working. So I click this button, and there's no feedback right now, or not good feedback, but it's analyzing the dice. You can see dice image complete, found 3 dice. You can see this dice, then you can view the dice image if you'd like. There's the dice image, it found dice, it found a... So we can see that there's a 2, a 1, and a 5 from the dice. And I can see that it got a 1, a 5, and a 2. These are +1. So it found and detected the dice in the dice tray, which is nice. It's what we'd expect. And then from there, we just have a couple more tabs. There's a start tab. which is just how you start the game. It kind of goes through the sections and shows you that everything is up and running and everything is good. And then there's also a links section. The links section doesn't work right now, but it is a way to send out a link to other people and they'll get access to the game. And depending on the role they get certain permissions. For example, player 2 will be able to make actions, while spectators may just get access to kind of the current game state, the armies. They'll get access to this image and the ability to toggle it between the digital map and the actual map. Finally, the last thing that I'm going to show is just starting the game. I'm going to start the game, and it just does a little bit of processing, and then it'll route us to the deployment. Units that detected will be automatically put on the deployment map where they should be, and units that it didn't detect or that aren't yet deployed, you'll have to go through the deployment to get there. So anyways, that's kind of where I wanted to briefly explain in this YouTube video, as it is my first, trying to get it out there, and I hope to improve upon this process and make it more tutorial-like, make it so people can easily get into a game, start it, and run through one. And I think demonstrating weekly progress is a great way to do that. So anyways, thank you. And I look forward to hearing from you in the future.